Hi, today we're going to speak with Brian Covert on conversations with VIE and talk about capitated spine programs. Brian's going to answer the question, what is a capitated spine program, and why put one into place? And Brian, you've been doing these programs for years. They are more common for knee replacements, hip replacements, total joint replacements, but in spine, they're not as frequent, they're more challenging to do, and I think you're going to talk about the programs you put in place and how you work with hospitals.
Yes, so capitated programs have been around for a while, especially when you're talking about knee, orthopedic, total joint programs. When we're talking about capitated programs for spine, typically what we like to develop is what we call a fixed component program. So as opposed to capitating your implant cost by procedure, or in case of lumbar fusion by level, we actually capitate it by each component that goes into that procedure. So if we're talking about a one-level lumbar fusion, a typical procedure has 2 rods, 4 screws, and 4 screw caps. We actually set a price for each one of those components. Mm-hmm. So this capitated fixed component structure has a lot of advantages. Mainly, it's going to scale as you do larger procedures, so there's no need to keep renegotiating your procedures at different levels. If you have one set price for a pedicle screw, whether you do a 1-level, a 2-level, or a 3-level, your price is already negotiated. Mm-hmm. The main benefit of doing a capitated program like this, and especially a fixed component program, is that we're allowing the physicians to use whatever technology they want, and also to use whatever vendor they want. So it in no way, shape, or form limits physician choice or physician preference, but rather any vendor that agrees to the fixed component program can sell all of their technology to the hospital. And doctors are free to use whatever technology they'd like. Additionally, as new technology is introduced, it doesn't have to be renegotiated as it can fit into the existing fixed component cap. Some of the advantages to doing this fixed component program is having uniform pricing across all the vendors. One other critical advantage of a fixed component capitation program in spine is it's a lot easier to manage from a purchasing standpoint. Mm-hmm. So as POs come in or invoices come in, it's not going to be one price with several different configurations. Each individual item is going to have its own product catalog number and its own unit price, and this is all easy to manage. So while you do have uniform pricing across all vendors, and you do have uniform pricing for each case across all vendors, purchasing isn't going to have to deal with some of the problems that they deal with in, for example, orthopedic capitation, where you could sub out different parts of a total joint and still have the same pricing.
And what I love about the programs you put into place, Brian, and with you and your team, is that you've developed your own crosswalk. So you really know all the spine vendors in the industry and all the components, and you can very easily map what kind of spine case, what kind of spine procedure, what's used in those procedures, and how it's differentiated by vendor. And you're able to have this whole roadmap, which is really unique to you and your team and what you've developed. So you're able to implement that pretty easily in a hospital.
Absolutely. When we go into to evaluate a program, one of the first things we do is go through 12 months purchasing and 12 months of purchases and actually label each individual component and label in regards to the cap. And typically when we put a fixed component cap in place, we're talking about 80 to 85% of the spine purchases fitting into that cap.
Yeah, which is unheard of, right? No one's been able to do that at all. In fact, VIE is the only company that's been able to put that into place where you capture 80 to 85% of your spine purchases in a fixed component capitated program, which is a testament to you and your work.
Absolutely, and there's always going to be technology or procedures that are done less commonly that are just, there's no way to uniformly place them in a cap or compare them to the other vendors. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be product exclusivity to specific vendors, but VIE Healthcare's fixed component capitation program encompasses pretty much, as we said, 80% of what a typical hospital will purchase. So putting that in place takes a lot of the work out of negotiating future contracts and adding new technology to existing.
VIE Healthcare's expertise in capitated programs can help your hospital simplify and save money. Please reach out to us so we can talk about how we can customize a capitated program for your hospital and save you money on your spine and other physician preference items.